It is the biggest infrastructure project in Europe today, described by onlookers as the worksite of the century. Right in the heart of the French capital, often called the City of Lights, the Grand Paris Express is steadily taking shape. Along with its grand design comes monumental ambitions, 200 kilometers of track and tunnel, thousands of jobs, millions of passengers, and one city determined to pull it all together. It promises to offer everything you could want in a modern metro system: air conditioning, Wi-Fi, and such frequent trains that missing one's not really a concern. It will be fashionable, it will be accessible, and it will be unmistakably French. But can the French government really pull it off? Can they fulfill every promise they've made, or is this massive undertaking doomed to wave the white flag? This is how you build a metro. A new kind of French Revolution. So, well, you might be wondering, what exactly is the Grand Paris Express? Why has it made such lofty promises to revolutionize the way transport functions in the City of Lights? Well, it's a brand new underground express railway system designed to connect the entire Parisian metropolitan area. But that's not all. This project is truly mega in every sense of the word. The French government is in the midst of laying down hundreds of kilometers of track in what will become the largest infrastructure project on the European continent today. The project was first initiated around 2010, when it became clear that the existing metro system in Paris simply wouldn't be fit for the future. With both the city and its population growing rapidly, the old metro was struggling to cope with increased congestion and soaring demand. So the French government, likely with a cigarette in one hand and a glass of fine champagne in the other, kicked off the design and bidding process to modernize Paris's transport network for the 21st century. Ground was broken in 2016, and it's believed that most of the 4 new metro lines, which will encircle Paris like an angry mob with a guillotine, will be completed by 2030. These lines, set to be known as Metro Lines 15, 16, 17, and 18, will join an extension to the already existing Metro Line 14. And at this point, we might be wondering why France can't give their underground tracks cool names, like London.
They lack imagination.
Now, the project as a whole is led by the French government. I mean, it's their house, but they have teamed up with several companies in a public-private partnership to build the extensive infrastructure needed to make Paris the envy of the world again. For instance, Keolis is overseeing lines 16, 17, and 18, while the Aura consortium, comprising Rapdev, Alstom, and Comfort de Gros, is responsible for line 15. However, the project isn't simply about the government and these companies. Those companies in turn subcontract work to others, and sometimes those subcontractors subcontract to other subcontractors. It's, how it works. At the same time, the French government has made it a priority to collaborate with all public stakeholders in the project, including local governments, transport operators, and local residents. They've maintained an open dialogue with the community. 22,000 people took part in the debate over the project. This inclusive approach is essential, as it ensures that the needs of the capital's citizens are taken into account. After all, let's be honest, if their concerns weren't addressed, people would flood the streets in protest. It's France. Never change. So what are the dimensions and specs for this unprecedented undertaking? And is it really meant to serve the entirety of Paris? Well, let's find out, shall we? So, in total, 200 kilometers of line are going to be laid around, underneath, and through the City of Love, but where exactly are all these tunnels, electrical cables, and steel going? And my writer here has lifted a little note for me saying that there's a lot of French pronunciation coming up. So, I'm going to do my best. I got a C at GCSE French. I'm not the best at languages.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Let's start by looking at the map with line 14, the only line that already existed. Its extension is the linchpin around which the rest of the new metro system will connect. Line 14 cuts straight through the center of Paris. It starts in the north, near the suburb of Saint-Denis. Saint-Denis. Saint-Denis! Sorry, French people, I'm sorry.
Arrivederci.
It travels through Paris. Paris! It connects with the existing Line 14 in the heart of the city and then jets south all the way down to the airport in Orly, directly due south of the city proper. Line 15 is the largest and most ambitious of them all, with plans designed to completely encircle the central Paris metro area. To the east, it tails off towards Noisy, maybe? In the south, it reaches as far as Vitry-sur-Seine, while in the west, it extends all the way out to Nanterre, and then loops back to Saint-Denis in the north, where it links to Line 14, and then connects in the south. Line 16 resembles an eastern extension to the 16. It travels eastward from Saint-Denis, curving around Montfermeil, maybe, and reconnecting with 15 at Noisy and Gourmet-Simon. Line 17 follows Line 16 from Saint-Denis in the north to Le Bourget, where it then splits off toward the northeast, extending all the way to Le Mesnil-Amelot. Nailed it. And finally, Line 18 connects with Line 14 at Orly Airport in the south before continuing west to Guyancourt and then circling back to Versailles. Many maps know how to pronounce that one. Versailles, nailed it. Many maps also include a dotted line from here back to Nanterre on Line 15, suggesting a potential future connection, though for now, it remains unlinked. Got it? Fantastic. No more French pronunciation. Thank you very much. Let's move on. So now that we know the length and route, there's a lot more to this project. As mentioned, this mega project is about as mega as projects get. You can see why we're doing it on this channel. It spans 200 kilometers with the vast majority of its rail lines built underground. This necessitates massive tunnels dug using special machines. And no, I don't mean boring machines in the mundane sense, but rather machines that literally bore massive holes through rock, which is critical since some tunnels extend as deep as 30 meters underground or more. In fact, 27 of these machines are hard at work tunneling beneath more French terrain than the Allies encountered in World War I. And what are they putting in those tunnels, aside from kilometer after kilometer of rails? Well, it's things like electrical infrastructure, supporting structures to prevent the tunnels from collapsing, 170 kilometers of fiber optic cables, ventilation systems, and more. Above ground, the construction of 68 new stations is underway. 80% of these stations will have connections to existing infrastructure in Paris. On average, 30 to 50% of each station's surface area is dedicated to technical equipment. This includes electrical power systems, computers, Wi-Fi stations, radio beacons, communication tools, and technical gear for the trains, such as signaling infrastructure. And that's not all. Across Paris, a series of centralized command posts manage different aspects of the project. If the myriad tunnels, rails, and stations serve as a central nervous system, these facilities function as the brain, receiving all the data and information transmitted by the trains. Here, officers manage traffic regulation and oversee operations from multiple workstations, which even include some very fancy large screens displaying real-time activity. How futuristic. These command centers will serve as the hubs around which Paris's new metro system operates. They are the sites for conducting specific tests, controlling signals and switches, monitoring safety, responding to incidents, communicating with passengers, and maintaining the infrastructure. The ultimate goal is to centralize decision-making processes to reduce delays across the board. And those working there will need to be pretty switched on because these new trains are quick. Now, they're not bullet train quick, but they are pretty speedy, reaching maximum speeds of 110 kilometers an hour. For reference, some trains on the London Tube peak at 96 kilometers an hour. Most of the time, however, the Grand Paris Express will be operating between 55 and 65 kilometers an hour. Now, that might not seem that impressive compared to the top speed mentioned earlier, but consider this. The current Paris Metro runs at an average of only 21 to 27 kilometers an hour, which makes this a massive upgrade. But just think about it for a minute. Consider the sheer scale of a project like this. Picture all the concrete, the logistics, the steel, the countless man-hours, the deliveries, the cables, the communications equipment, and the endless wires. Then think about the human element, the electricians, construction workers, welders, delivery drivers, engineers, safety inspectors, HR managers, project managers, communications pros, plus all of the other staff on the platforms and in the command centers. And that is just a fraction of them. There's gonna be a whole lot more. It's a monumental effort, and one that deserves to be the biggest infrastructure project in all of Europe. And it also needs to be, because the French government has made some lofty goals for the Grand Paris Express. And I mean, you could probably expect that because they didn't just call it the mostly okay Paris Express, did they? They believe that nearly 3 million passengers will be using it to travel throughout the city every single day on average once it's built, a number comparable to today's London Underground, which has taken decades to build and expand. But they also need to have those lofty goals. Like any massive infrastructure project, it is eye-wateringly expensive, currently billed at around 35 billion euros, or roughly $39 billion adjusted for freedom. So, to build something so expensive, there has to be some upsides, right? And to that, we can say, ah, oui! Liberty, equality, fraternity. It might sound obvious, but one key question is why? Sure, there's going to be less congestion, but there are much cheaper alternatives to solving that problem if that's all the French government wanted to address. And the Grand Paris Express is going to bring a number of other massive benefits to the city and its surrounding regions, not just reducing congestion. Just to start, there are ample opportunities available to both staff and build the project. Thousands of positions have been filled in engineering, construction, logistics, and related sectors, with many native Parisians taking on these roles. The command centers alone are reported to require approximately 1,000 staff members collectively. These opportunities will undoubtedly bolster the economies of the communities from which these employees come, giving many regions of Paris a significant boost. But we did miss one job opportunity that won't be critical to the Grand Paris Express, as it has been for other underground metro systems, and that's drivers. You see, many of these metro trains are designed to be fully automatic and controlled remotely from a central command center. The goal is to ensure reliability, with trains scheduled to arrive at stations every 2 to 3 minutes on average. And don't get me wrong, these trains will still have manual controls and drivers will operate them in certain sections when necessary. However, this remote coordination permits entire areas to be managed simultaneously. It'll be like a beautiful French ballet, except with hundreds of thousands of kilograms of steel and concrete. It's also designed to slash commuting times dramatically, allowing people to reach their destinations in Paris without having to travel right through the city center. Take a look at the current Paris metro map and you'll see the issue. The existing system forces passengers traveling between suburbs to funnel straight through the heart of the city before heading out again. This not only wastes time, but also creates unnecessary bottlenecks in the center. Imagine it like a bicycle spokes all converging at the wheel's hub. Similarly, you can view the Grand Paris Express as a uniquely shaped wheel rim that connects areas previously accessible only by a detour along the Champs-Élysées. While the current system might provide a picturesque commute, it doesn't truly serve the needs of Parisians. By allowing people to bypass the busy city centre, this new approach will also free up valuable space there. Even more cleverly, the frequency of trains can be adjusted according to the city's needs. Whether there's a big football game, an international sporting event, or a cultural festival in a specific area, trains can be scheduled to run more frequently to reduce bottlenecks for thousands of attendees. This flexibility extends to other busy periods, such as weekends, peak times during the week, or school holidays. It's a versatile, adaptable system built around the needs of the Parisian people. Nowhere is this adaptability more evident than in one of the major goals of the Grand Paris Express, reducing social and income inequality. Some parts of the wider metropolitan area of the City of Love suffer from significant income disparities and stubborn suburban poverty. The small town of Saint-Denis in the north, in particular, has struggled with these issues for decades. And it isn't a coincidence that many of the train lines converge in Saint-Denis. This was a deliberate choice. Bringing more people, opportunities, businesses, and other commutes to the poorest areas of Paris will bring a much-needed economic boost. These neighborhoods will no longer be abandoned backwaters. Over time, they can rise out of poverty and integrate fully with the rest of the city, earning the reputation that they deserve. This transformation will serve as an economic and employment springboard for some of the most struggling members of Paris. In fact, 42 stations are planned to be within 800 meters of areas designated as disadvantaged by the city. Consider places like Clichy, Montfermeil. I thought there was not going to be more French pronunciations. How you say that? Where the Grand Paris Express is expected to create 11 times more job opportunities within a 45-minute metro ride. This change is not only transformative, it's revolutionary for communities that have long been left behind. Liberty, equality, fraternity indeed. So what else? It's also designed to be accessible to everyone. Metro train cars will include a generous number of seats that are color-coded according to the accessibility requirements. Every car will have designated spaces for wheelchairs and strollers, and all access doors will be fully accessible to wheelchair users. Additionally, grab bars will be installed for busy times or when passengers need support while standing, and an intercom system will be available to contact staff in case anything goes wrong. On top of that, they're designed with the comfort and convenience of each passenger in mind. High-performance ventilation, air conditioning, and heating systems ensure that even if you're underground during the height of the summer or the dead of the winter, you won't have to suffer on your way to your destination. LED lighting will also vary in intensity depending on the time of day, bright enough at night to enhance safety while providing a relaxed atmosphere for passengers during off-peak times. This stands in stark contrast to certain tube trains in London, for example, where riding them can sometimes feel akin to getting a beating from light itself. But that sense of security won't be merely a feeling. The metro will be outfitted with high-end security cameras to monitor and protect the Parisian public. Looking to relax during your journey? How about some music? The Grand Paris Express will offer high-speed internet connectivity, including Wi-Fi and 5G, along with USB ports so passengers can charge their devices on the go. This means you can kick back and enjoy your travel time stress-free. And despite being French, it is non-smoking. The metro is a key component of the city's ambitious goal to become completely carbon neutral by 2050. It features innovative measures such as automatic piloting of the trains, LED lighting, and a 100% electric braking system, all designed to reduce energy consumption. Moreover, because this public transport infrastructure project is situated in the heart of a highly populated city, it will help lower carbon emissions by reducing the need for car journeys. A vast majority of Paris residents will live within 2 kilometers of a station, making it convenient for most people to access the metro on foot or by bicycle. Once complete, you will be able to travel from areas like Versailles or Le Mesnil-Amelot directly into the center of Paris, all under your own power. Or the power of a tube train, we suppose. In theory, the new metro will cut CO2 emissions by at least 14.2 million tons by 2050, or 20 years after it's fully commissioned, or whichever comes later. This reduction will more than offset the total carbon emissions produced during the construction of the Grand Paris Express by a factor of 3 to 5. Additionally, the areas surrounding the stations are planned to host low-carbon, energy-efficient real estate projects that utilize natural building materials, eco-design, and advanced energy-saving techniques. Not only will this new housing stock help curb urban sprawl, but it will also reduce human encroachment into Paris's natural spaces. It seems Kermit was wrong. Being green is indeed easy, just ask the French. While all of this sounds promising, and it really is, achieving it is not as simple as it seems. Beyond the massive building projects, a critically important stage must be completed before even one commuter can step aboard. So, how are the French ensuring that the Grand Paris Express won't turn into an unreliable mess? Well, that's testing. Getting testy. Even before the first passenger steps on board, before any ticket inspector politely asks, "Billet s'il vous plaît," and before a waiter in a beret serves a garlic-laced baguette, the entire metro system undergoes a comprehensive multi-phase testing campaign. Every aspect, from each door on every rail car to each electrical component driving the system, is meticulously checked to guarantee perfect functioning before commuters begin their journeys. After all, spending billions of euros on something that doesn't work, no matter how national pastime it may be on the continent, is not good for business. In the factories where components and rail cars are developed and built, a comprehensive static testing phase is first undertaken. For example, door systems, which are essential for passenger safety, undergo thousands of opening and closing cycles to ensure long-lasting reliability. Similarly, the interior lighting systems are rigorously tested to guarantee they function properly, even deep underground. Across many metro networks, it's not uncommon for the lights on some cars to suddenly cut out. On the London Underground, however, passengers typically remain silent and wait for the lights to return, while in France, a blackout might provoke more immediate action, keeping the companies on their toes. Lighting is tested in various configurations to ensure comfort throughout a commuter's journey, especially as the system is designed to be dynamic based on the time of day. Additionally, air conditioning and other electronic equipment, such as interfaces with signaling systems, are subjected to meticulous inspections at this stage. Simultaneously with the factory tests, equipment critical to the metro's overall operation is slowly being installed along the future metro lines and tested under the real-life conditions in which it will eventually operate. This mainly includes components such as electrical networks and cabinets, CCTV cameras, radio antennas, Wi-Fi terminals, ticket barriers, and various train-related systems that are not housed on the train. Each system is powered up individually so that the installer can verify its connection to the grid. With work underway across 68 new stations, both underground and overground, it is not a quick job, which is why implementation is being carried out gradually. Then the integration phase can begin. After confirming that each piece of equipment functions on its own, the next step is to test how well they work together. This might seem a bit paranoid from the outside, but it's essential. In theory, components that function independently should operate in tandem with larger systems. However, without proper testing, you risk assembling your rolling stock only to discover that none of the trains start because an unseen design flaw has overloaded your entire electrical network. This mistake can be extremely costly, and addressing the problem at its source can prevent major network-wide failures. Measure twice, cut once. The entire process unfolds gradually. Initially, tests are conducted statically. Later, cars are placed on rails at the site for dynamic assessment. At this stage, it isn't only the lights and doors that need verification. Systems such as the all-electric braking systems must be examined in multiple environments to ensure they meet safety standards under a whole range of conditions. Trains are evaluated to determine how they behave at various speeds and how they interface with other systems like the electrical grid and signaling systems. These signaling systems, which instruct the trains when to go and when to stop, are critical given the immense weight of the machines and their ability to travel at 110 kilometers an hour. Initially, trains are run in manual mode. Once safety is confirmed, they transition to automatic. Additionally, weighted ballasts are used during testing to simulate the presence of passengers, ensuring a full understanding of how these trains will operate from day one. And at this point, you might be thinking, surely we're done, Simon. You've covered this, right? And to that I say, oh, no. Next, ventilation tests and dry runs must be carried out. These processes verify the performance, stability, and capacity of the transport system by running multiple trains at the same time while simulating incidents or degraded situations. You can think of it as the same integration system on a much larger scale, ensuring that all the trains can operate together simultaneously. Once these checks are complete, the metro operator conducts a dry run under operating conditions without any passengers. This step confirms that the trains do not encounter unexpected issues across the entire network of tracks, rather than just a small section, and also tests the functionality of station facilities as trains pass through, mirroring real-life conditions with passengers aboard. Finally, and we do actually mean it this time, the trains undergo rigorous strength and water tightness tests to ensure their reliability regardless of cargo, passengers, or external conditions. This testing phase is crucial to the rollout of the Grand Paris Express. Service reliability is essential, and first impressions matter. If all that money was spent only for the trains to malfunction on their first day, no matter if they eventually meet the required standards, their reputation might suffer irreparable damage. This issue is just one among many that the French government must consider when integrating and constructing the new Paris Metro. Even though there are far more complicated challenges at play, they have managed to mitigate these difficulties as effectively as possible for a project of this size. But what are these challenges? Well, let's dive deeper. Getting off track. Now, as you might imagine, any project of this unimaginable scale comes with a host of concerns that the French government must address. If they don't, citizens could be out in the streets building barricades before you can say sacre bleu. That said, we do have to give credit to the Elysée. Much of the planning and construction for this behemoth project includes built-in counter-arguments for potential issues, showing that the entire system was designed with these challenges in mind. The first issue is the sheer scale of the project. The companies and the French government working together have so far managed to secure the manpower and materials needed for the Grand Paris Express, but that's not what we're really addressing here. The initiative is a highly complicated series of interconnected infrastructure projects that span different local territories and municipalities. Various companies oversee different parts of the project. Any station might have one company handling the rolling stock, while another tackles the platform, while others manage the interconnected infrastructure, electrical components, security cameras, the construction of the building itself, project management, architecture, and just a whole lot more. All of these companies, including those subcontracted by the larger entities that initially won the bids, must work together seamlessly throughout every phase, from construction to operation. This coordination is far from easy, given that companies have different procedures and working styles, and issues like petty rivalries, office politics, and other practical pitfalls can arise. However, the centralized nature of the project, with the French government at the helm and the entire effort concentrated in the capital city, has helped keep workflows relatively efficient and organized. At least as organized as a project of this size can be, when everyone is required to pull in the same direction to get the Grand Paris Express off the ground. It's also a highly technical project. In some scenarios, trains will arrive as frequently as every 2 to 3 minutes, and some will travel at 110 kilometers an hour. Advanced electrical systems and ventilation must operate throughout the extensive network of tunnels, most of which will be built underground, adding to the complexity. Additionally, there are computers and integrated transport systems to consider. While such projects have been undertaken before, none have been executed on this scale. That is why the French government, along with the associated private companies, is committed to a rigorous phase of testing. Then there's the cost of it all, which has reportedly overrun, with delays in construction threatening to push back the project's total completion date even further. The longer the project takes, the more it costs. 35 billion euros already and rising, it's not exactly an impulse purchase like buying a croque monsieur from a local bakery. After all, its intended budget was 25 billion euros. Every extra billion sunk into the Grand Paris Express adds another billion before the project can even begin to break even, which could threaten its long-term viability if it never turns profit. But, to be honest, this is the case for almost every massive infrastructure project ever built. For the largest one in Europe, a slight cost overrun and some delays kind of par for the course. It is still, and you have to pardon the pun here, on track to be completed, with all its bells and whistles just slightly later than initially planned. The original timeline aimed for full completion by 2030, but with current construction trajectories, some areas might extend into the 2030s. However, For massive state infrastructure projects, being a bit late in some sections is unlikely to have a significant long-term impact. French residents, especially those outside Paris, are entitled to their opinions on how the government uses their hard-earned tax money, but they're going to get taxed either way, and the rail network is expected to recoup money through increased tourism. It's undoubtedly expensive, but if Paris ends up with the best capital metro system in all of Europe, surely that's going to be worth the investment. And then you have to consider the factors such as integrating the new metro with existing transport infrastructure, national rail services, bus routes, bike sheds, tramways, pedestrian walkways, even airports. Every element has to fit together as seamlessly as possible to provide smooth service. It's all well and good if the Grand Paris Express can carry millions of passengers every day, but if parts of the existing infrastructure aren't built for that capacity, the bottleneck will simply be moved elsewhere instead of being eliminated. This is likely why the project has a central theme. It is designed to take the strain with a circular route. As the most efficient, largest, and best connected transport network around, the surrounding systems are designed to feed passengers into it. Furthermore, the metro is engineered to accommodate the future growth of the Parisian population while managing peak areas, such as during sporting or cultural events where crowds usually overflow. However, no matter how hard Paris tries, bottlenecks can't be prevented everywhere. Ticketing and fare harmonization have yet to be fully resolved. Consequently, like almost all rail systems, it will either require a total overhaul or result in an imperfect system that is pieced together from existing components. And then there are the issues that arise from the practical implementation of the railway, both above ground and underground. With most of the metro being built under the surface, the companies responsible for tunneling have been particularly careful when working near heritage zones. Now, we're not suggesting they're constructing a platform in the Paris catacombs, but the vibrations produced by tunneling near historical structures can lead to complications. Tunneling in areas around places like Versailles requires special precautions and rigorous approval processes. Groundwater contamination is another risk that could trigger environmental problems if not managed carefully. Nevertheless, every precaution has been taken, and at the end of the day, the Grand Paris Express, including its environmental advantages, are expected to outweigh the construction challenges. You can't stand in the way for progress for the sake of issues that, by comparison, are relatively minor. Above ground, the issues are far more political. One of the main goals of the Grand Paris Express is to better connect the entire Parisian metropolitan area, reducing commuting times and opening opportunities in some of Paris's poorest neighborhoods. This is undoubtedly a noble aim, yet it comes with its own set of challenges. There are concerns that the prosperity these areas might enjoy could lead to rapid gentrification. With many residents relying on rented accommodations, the very people the project is designed to benefit could find themselves priced out of their own neighborhoods. Additionally, overlapping regional authorities in the city may introduce inefficiencies while distancing people from the decision-making process. Others worry their specific areas may see little more than rising house prices with few tangible benefits in real terms. However, these political issues are true for every major public infrastructure project in any built-up city. One would hope that the rising tide becomes widespread enough to lift all ships, and that the gentrification process unfolds slowly and gradually so that residents in more deprived areas can benefit from the new metro. Similarly, the French government has wisely accepted that it is impossible to please everyone all the time, whether the project is built or not, and regardless of its location, those who resist change will always find something to complain about. And finally, while the threat of terrorism may seem more abstract to citizens, it presents a very real concern for the government. Europe and France in particular are still feeling the impact of some of the most significant terror attacks from just a decade ago. A state-of-the-art metro system at the heart of the French capital could easily become a symbolic target for such attacks, much like the London Underground was during the 7/7 suicide bombings. However, the French government has taken this risk into careful consideration. Numerous reports highlight the robust security and safety features integrated throughout the metro, including its advanced ventilation system, extensive CCTV network, emergency stopping mechanisms, and dedicated passenger evacuation tunnels. All of these measures are designed to ensure that the metro remains in the headlines for the right reasons, chiefly keeping passengers safe. So now you know almost everything you need to about the Grand Paris Express. Just a few questions remain. Where does the project stand today, and when can we expect it to be fully operational? The future of the Grand Paris Express. So, from today onward, what can we expect from this project? How will this mega project evolve in the coming years? Although the current completion date is set for 2030, with delays pushing the opening of certain sections to later in the decade, some parts of the Grand Paris Express are already accessible. In fact, you can ride on certain segments right now and enjoy all the benefits they offer. For example, the Line 14 extension was originally scheduled for completion in 2019. However, flooding and the COVID pandemic delayed the project, and it wasn't finished until June 2024, just in time for the Olympic Games. In 2025, additional progress is being made. The southern section of Line 15 is currently undergoing both automatic and manual integration testing on the part that connects the Champigny Central Operations Center to the line. In theory, this means it won't be long before the line opens for business and truly begins to connect the city. Due to the massive scale of the project, it will open in stages between 2026 and 2030, although potential delays could push back this timeline. Meanwhile, lines 17 and 16 now feature tunnels housing the essential equipment required for metro operations. Although testing on these systems has not yet commenced, there remains a considerable amount of construction to complete. Current projections suggest that Line 16 will open between 2027 and 2028, while Line 17 is scheduled to start running sometime between 2027 and 2030. However, as construction work is still underway, any delays could extend the deadlines even further into the 2030s. Line 18 has undergone both static and dynamic tests on some of the rolling stock as recently as April 2025. It's believed that the line will be commissioned and opened between 2026 and 2030. However, if testing is already underway, the launch could fall on the earlier side of that range, if we're lucky. Now, if you can't wait to see how everything turns out, you got two options. You can either hop on Line 14 for a preview or visit one of the many centers across Paris that offer tours. These tours show what the metro will look like once fully constructed, how it will be operated, and the regional benefits it will bring. As the metro gradually comes online piece by piece, it will begin to have a transformative effect on the lives of the people in the city who need it most. And one can hope that it will do even more, giving the whole city an uplifting boost. All in all, the Grand Paris Express represents not only the largest and most ambitious infrastructure project in Europe today, but also the very French ideal of catering to the individual while benefiting the community. It symbolizes a rise out of poverty and the creation of opportunities for groups that have never before experienced anything like this. It embodies a shift toward a more ecologically conscious world, one in which we take pride in going to great lengths to protect our planet while relentlessly striving for improvement. Above all, it's a human story, a story of engineers, construction workers, welders, electricians, and countless others who have contributed to making something so groundbreaking, monumental, and, well, grand. It encapsulates that classic French saying, "Impossible n'est pas français." In other words, impossible isn't French. Merci for watching.